All right.
All right. 3, 2.
Hey everyone, I'm Greg Marino here with Gabe DeBrosi from Hillsdale College Ultimate Frisbee, and today we got a few things to talk about. Coming up here in May, club tryouts. Gabe and I are both going to be getting in on those with Grand Rapids Beacon.
Yep.
And as we discussed that, we'll also get into UFA versus club, the different things going on in both those leagues, in the future of Ultimate, as well as Hillsdale College sectionals coming up here just tomorrow night. In about 8 hours, we will be playing our sectionals games, maybe 10 or 11 actually. And in light of that, the future for Hillsdale Ultimate specifically.
That's right.
So we'll talk about all that and more coming up here on today's episode of the podcast.
Yeah, so just jumping right into it, club tryouts. So, Greg, despite the fact that you have already made it into Detroit Mechanics, you are also planning on trying out for Grand Rapids Beacon. So, if any of our viewers are not already familiar, Grand Rapids Beacon had their second season last year and kind of had a breakout at regionals. They took out Cincinnati Omen at regionals. Very unexpected. It was a great game. Some other of our friends were also there playing for a different club, and we're like, yeah, theoretically we had a game going on, but we were on the side, so we were just watching Beacon beat up Omen. Like, it was just awesome. They really just kind of upset the whole thing. Then also when I think lost only 9-13 to Chicago Machine after that. So just had an amazing season at regionals last year, and have now made top flight. So they'll be available for top flight tournaments this coming season.
Yeah.
Which means that they'll be playing up against some pretty big competition, and not just at regionals either. So
Yeah, the big dogs are going to be at Beacon. And we see our producer over there in the back giving us a smile because he was at that regionals last year when Beacon had that massive upset win on Omen. There were some crazy plays there. There's a lot of great players on Beacon. Those are guys I practiced with them last summer. Didn't end up playing the series with them at the end of the year, sectionals and regionals, that is. But had a great time practicing with them. Those captains, we all love those guys.
Yeah.
So
they're dear to our hearts for sure. They're dear to Michigan Ultimate for sure.
Yeah, we're both trying to practice with them next year. So hopefully we at least make practice squad, and if we can play with them, that'd be awesome.
That'd be great. So, Greg, what do you think is going to be the landscape going in between Beacon as compared to Mechanics and compared to last year? Do you think Beacon's going to be a little bit more prestigious, a little bit more competition on tryouts, a little bit more like people want to be in Beacon more? It's going to be a little bit more. There's going to be more contenders. It's going to be hard to get in. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year for Beacon because last year was the first year that they were really an outstanding team, but this will be the first year that they really get recognized as an outstanding team. Because last year, they were all that, but no one really knew it until the end of the season when they took down Omen.
Exactly.
So now they're going to have that recognition. That's going to draw some good players to their tryouts. So I think their tryouts are going to be very competitive. And
more than last year, you think?
I think so. I expect the program to grow. So, yeah, in that sense, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, so probably more guys at the tryout and probably better guys at the tryout, too. I think they'll probably also draw some more college people. I didn't see as many college guys at tryouts last year. I think there'll be more.
Yeah.
I expect that for sure.
It depends as college students if you live in the area or not. But
that's right, yeah.
Michigan college students who live in Michigan in the summer, it's a great opportunity for them.
And Davenport's real close by, so their first year of their program coming in, if they've got local guys playing for them, they might also be interested in Beacon as well.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to trying out for Beacon. They're just, as far as culture goes, one of the best teams out there.
Yeah. So it's the full package. Great culture, really good play quality.
Yeah.
And, it's everything you want in a club ultimate team.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so maybe moving on to now that we're already talking about club, let's compare it a little bit with, and you can speak to this a little bit more, comparing it with pro. So what do you expect to be some of the differences between, well, maybe we can just begin by talking about, maybe some of our viewers not so familiar, what what's the difference between pro and club? Like, what's going on there? What's the distinction?
Yeah.
How, like, what's the history a little bit? And then we can talk about the rules. What's the difference in rules? And then experience as far as you're looking forward to coming into this season. What's going to experience between pro and club going to look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think to try to give you out there a little context to it, if you think about baseball, there's Major League Baseball. Everyone knows it's the MLB, that's the pro league, and everything else is like minor leagues or whatever. They kind of feed into that system, but it all boils down to the Major League Baseball at the top level. Yeah. But the sport of Ultimate right now, there's not a single pure monopoly in the league. So there's the Pro League, which is the UFA, formerly AUDL, recently changed the name. And so they are the technical pro Ultimate League in the country. And so, they're 24 teams, is it?
I think so.
Yeah. 24 teams. So there's like a set 24 teams in the league every year. They have a schedule out, playoffs.
4 divisions.
Yeah, 4 divisions. It's basically structured like the NFL. You play once a week, and then there's playoffs. There's division winners, wild cards, all that, and then championship. Just like any other sport. Mm-hmm. But then there's also Club Ultimate, which happens alongside the AUDL, partially. AUDL season is May, June, July, with playoffs kind of leaking into August. Club season is June, July, August, September, with nationals being in October.
Right.
And for club, the teams are not set. There's hundreds of teams. Right. Random people could create a club team. We could create a club team after college if we wanted to. And we wouldn't be good necessarily. And maybe we would. We start off with you and me. That could be not bad. But, maybe our producer in the background, he knows he'd like to join our team. Our producer's more than just a producer. He plays too. Maybe he's a guy over here on cameras too. Shout out to our cameraman, Matthew Marinick. He's also not a bad player. We'd put him on the Marino DeBrosi club team. But
might want to get him into CrossFit first, but
he might need a little
work.
But.
Yeah, and so another thing about club is that it is kind of the beginning of Ultimate, or where Ultimate began. So it kind of, I guess, it predates. Yeah. It predates Pro. The Pro that's come about. Although Pro's been around for quite a while, actually. I think Mechanics actually is the second oldest team.
Yeah.
Or the current active oldest team, and the second team to be created to our knowledge. Yeah. But Club has kind of been around since the beginning. It's affiliated with USA Ultimate. So, I mean, just as they organize college and even high school Ultimate, they also organize Club Ultimate. Now, Club isn't just 600 teams. Also, there's women's, mixed, and open. Right, open, pretty much meaning men's. Isn't just the top teams playing against whatever, ranked number 1 team playing against ranked 700 team. Based on your performance in last year's season, you will actually be invited to certain tournaments that are tiered. So you have the select flight. This is I guess is it elite flight is the top thing. You have elite flight, which is, I believe, the top 12 teams, and they are invited to attend Triple Crown tournaments with each other. Very competitive. They're also announced. Ulti World streams them. There's announcers, everything. Really big deals. Yep. As well as nationals. Then you have Top Flight and Select Flight, which are kind of also pretty prestigious, very difficult to get into, but kind of go further down that list. So still super competitive. Actually, there is some debate as to whether the top level of club or AUDL is actually more competitive. I think people who watch both would say, in general, there's, a lot of the same players playing both, but the level of competition is very similar. Some people would even argue that club is a little bit more competitive, a little bit higher level than AUDL. That's a debate to be had. Yeah,
I think, like we said, a lot of players play both club and AUDL. That's what I'm going to try to do this summer, is play Mechanics and Beacon, because most of the big Beacon tournaments happen after the Mechanics season ends, so it works from a player perspective to do both. Yep. So a lot of the time, it's what's a better team? New York Empire or New York Pony? That's the AUDL team versus the club team. Well, both of them have Jack Williams. Both of them have Ben Yah. So it's a lot of the same guys. Yeah. So the big difference in the league is there are some just actual rule differences that have a pretty big impact. Club plays stall 10. and UFA plays stall 7. So that obviously is a huge impact on the game.
That's a really big one.
Yeah.
The field is noticeably larger, so I guess so. Pro is designed to use the entirety of a football field.
Yep,
right?
it's exactly the same size as a football field,
so-
except the end zones are 20 yards instead of 10.
Yes, and it's also that means it's much wider. That's the biggest difference in field size. Much wider space, which means that in general it gives offense a little bit more of an advantage. Just huge. I mean, it's really noticeable in playing on a football field. Just how much wider the space is changes things. Changes hucks are a lot more forgiving. That kind of thing. So you see a lot more hucking in AUDL or in pro in general. That kind of thing. Also, double teams are also allowed, so increase in the kinds of defensive strategies that are able to be used. In my opinion, I think that's a great rule. I think it's kind of silly that double team isn't allowed in club. It just increases the defensive possibilities of the game, creates more dynamic playing experience and dynamic viewing experience. It's just great. I think it's a good rule. So stall 7, like you said. And then one of the big things, this is something that we talk about a lot and that we kind of lament in a lot of competitive club ultimate, is that AUDL does have referees.
Yes.
Sorry, pro has referees.
Yes, that is probably the biggest thing I like about playing pro versus club is we actually have refs, because it's like club, you can have really high level club, and at high levels of club, like nationals, they will have observers who make this problem better. But the problem with lower level club games is there will be one guy on the other team who just is obnoxious, makes calls, and there's nothing you can do. You can contest the call, but to a certain point, like the play still does run back, and it's bad. It's like, what are we doing here? So there's a few reasons. I like some of like the professionalism that goes into the pro league, which kind of is in the name. So like it checks out, but you got the schedules out at the start of the year. It's like, it's games, not tournaments. It feels like the other major sports.
And it's franchise run. Like, so your team has an owner as opposed to just like, there's like some unity between the captains with club, and maybe they'll hire coaches and that kind of thing. But AUDL's like, hey, we have a bona fide, we have an owner, paid for a coach.
In club, it's often just a few of the better players on the team will kind of take ownership of the team, be like, hey, we booked an Airbnb for y'all. Oh shoot, like we don't have enough beds, sleep on the floor. Me 3 days ago, I was the club leader who did that.
The guy who slept on the floor.
Yeah, but and I will sleep on the floor myself. For all you people on my team who might be listening, I'm sleeping on the floor. Don't worry about it. You all can get beds and air mattresses and all that. Gabe, I'm also making you sleep on the floor.
All right, so anyways, further, so those are generally, that's kind of like the history of club and pro, and also some of the main differences in the rules. But let's also talk a little bit about the experience of playing club and pro, what you're looking forward to that being like, maybe the viewing experience. Then we'll talk, going to the next topic, where the future of the sport really lies. So what are you expecting the experience between club and pro to be like this coming year? From your experience viewing ultimate in both leagues, what do you think is going to be challenges? Do you think that you'll enjoy one more over the other? Or do you think that the future of the sport lies with one of these two over the other?
I think what's going to be nice about club is I'm going to be able to get really high level ultimate by playing on a good club team. So you get that intense competitive ultimate, but also depending on the tournament and the team we're playing, sometimes there will be a less competitive game where you can, ease up a bit, have some fun, enjoy some laughs on the sidelines a little more.
Right.
Not that, pro is all just stone-faced grinding. It's like we're like not laughing on the sideline there, but in club there is a bit more of a, a more of a friendly community, especially when a really good team is playing a bad team. Oftentimes, it'll be like, this isn't at all competitive, so we're just all going to have a fun time and throw stall one hammers. So
that kind of stuff.
So club allows for some fun in the less serious environments, while still providing serious competitive environments. So as far as developing your own personal ultimate game, I think club's going to be great for us.
Yeah.
But then out of the pro league, what I'm looking forward to there is going to be some going out to a stadium, playing in front of a few thousand fans and, you know, having like a professional live stream televising us on UFA TV. You know, it's not bad to, especially you only play one game, so it's very much like this is intense, you know, an hour and a half of straight ultimate sprinting the whole time. You're not saving yourself up because you're playing like 6 games on one weekend.
And tournament style,
you know,
right.
It's like, how good are you right now? Every other team in the league is also a pro team. And because I'm on the mechanics, probably better than us. So we're going to have to upset someone if we want to win a game.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that comes along with the pro league. It's also usually a little bit nicer. You might even get paid a little bit in addition to getting more food and lodging and stuff covered.
Right.
So rather than club, where it's kind of usually just people kind of, you know, pooling together some money and splitting up a hotel room between like 4 or 5 guys.
So then what do you think the difference between, you know, walking onto the field of, you know, say you travel to Chicago, you're playing against the Union, you're walking onto that field in the pro league versus the experience of, hey, walking into a top flight tournament, you know, walking into a top flight tournament with Beacon.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the difference between those two? Because one of the things that I'm thinking about is that, you know, we talk about some of these differences in rules between club and pro. And club, it's, you know, it's kind of a little bit more traditional, I guess, a little bit more in the roots of Ultimate with a very, it's, I mean, Spirit is actually built into the game, and this actually comes along with Pro. You'll hear announcers will talk all the time that in Pro, a player may call a foul on themselves if they believe that the ref did not make a fair call. They can call the foul themselves, and that's called the integrity rule. Announcers will always make a comment about that because it's kind of part of, you know, Ultimate's tradition, I guess. It's vibe. Club is a little bit more steeped in that players, calls kind of come down to integrity. Calls are made by players on the field.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the times it really does kind of work out. People are heated. People really want to win. But, you know, they kind of like they make sure they stay a little bit impersonal. They make the right call. We move on. And everyone's like really actually able to be genuine when we're giving each other high fives at the end of the game. But then, of course, like you said, you can also have people who just abuse the system entirely. Make calls just for the fact that they'll actually give them benefit. And I mean, that just kind of ruins the whole experience. And it really can happen. Observers can help. They can't solve everything. And also observers can also exhibit a little bit too much power and sometimes just steer games. There's been controversy about that in the past, say with a good example is the strip call between Dig and Truck at Nationals, Club Nationals last year. That's a thing where like, hey, observer just ruined the game, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so that's one of the things that I think when I'm walking onto the club stage, I'm going to a tournament, I'm like, hey, you know, I don't feel as though there's as much pressure. It seems that the sport is still kind of revolving around, hey, we're just out here, we're trying to have as much fun as possible, but we're trying to have fun through that competitive aspect. Whereas pro, it's like, hey, we're out here, we got a season to win, we got games to win, that's what we do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for sure, walking onto the field on a big road game facing a tough crowd is going to have a certain vibe that club doesn't give you as much. So,
but it's a little bit more official. It feels a little bit more like you've kind of made it to the big leagues, you know.
Exactly. I think it's a good feeling for sure to know, like, once you're on a pro team, you know, like you've made it to some level. You know, you've gotten onto a pro team. Whereas if you get onto a club team, if you get onto a pretty good club team, it's like, well, how good are they? Are they top 30? Maybe they're only really top 50. You know, you can have those kind of discussions. But it's like if you get onto a pro team, it's like, you know, you're in the UFA, and so you know, you're getting paid to play frisbee. You know, all growing up, you're a kid throwing around the disc. People say, "Hey, dude, get a job." I'm like, "Nah, I'm playing frisbee," and that is the job, you know. So that's not bad.
So with that in mind, where do you think the future of Ultimate Frisbee lies? Do you think that it lies in pro especially, or do you think that tradition kind of still outweighs the professional tendencies of pro Ultimate? Where do you think the future of the sport is?
I think the future, I think right now we're at a point where club versus AUDL is pretty comparable. I think what the future should be, and what I hope it is that ultimately UFA, sorry, I keep calling it AUDL, UFA becomes like a real bona fide pro league that starts, because right now we call it the pro league, but how pro are we? What am I making? Like hardly anything. So what ultimately would be great would be to be making where the players are actually full-time, 60, 80K a year. Obviously, that's still a long way away from NFL and MLB and those kinds of sports, but just enough so that it's like, hey, you can actually have a professional career in Ultimate Frisbee and live your life just on Ultimate Frisbee. Because then what that'll do is that'll open up the door for much better players. Because right now, obviously, we have some incredible players, but I think Ultimate as a whole is held back because every pro Ultimate player, apart from some of the top players, a lot of them have day jobs, So if I want to be the best Ultimate player in the world, it's kind of hard to do when I'm working 9 to 5 at the office and then trying to get in some training real fast after I get out of work,
Right.
But in other sports, and what I'd like to see Ultimate get in the future is, hey, no, this is your full-time job, playing Ultimate. And so 9 to 5, you're rising, grinding, getting in your workout, getting in your practice, and then you're just going to have better players.
Yeah.
And then better players equals better play, and, the audience continues to grow. There's no reason why Ultimate shouldn't be as big a sport as the other major sports. There's nothing about the sport. It's just as exciting, it's just as athletic, and it's just as marketable. It just it hasn't been marketed up until this point.
Yeah.
But if they do market it well, there's no reason why long term it couldn't be as big as the other major sports.
Yeah. And I think you're definitely right. I think especially with high level, the top level of the sport, I think UFA is where it's going to start growing the most, or where I hope it's going to start growing the most, and that's where it has the most potential. Of course, the things we really need to see are, the two big things. One is increasing popularity in Ultimate across the globe in general, and that means more junior Ultimate, more kids need to be growing up watching Ultimate, aspiring to their favorite players. This is not my favorite player. Sorry, Jeff Babbitt. My friends got this for me as a joke, but I am rooting for Glory this season, though, personally.
Yeah.
Anyways,
his hoodie's a joke. My shirt is super serious. So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's a distinction there. So we need more kids playing Ultimate, more kids looking up to guys in the UFA, and we need more money in the sport. That's just kind of how it goes.
Well,
and this is kind of how, look back at baseball back in the late 1800s. This is kind of where it began. It was people, who kind of had jobs and just loved playing the sport. They were clubs. They were baseball clubs. Some of the current teams' official names still have club in the title because, hey, it began as a club. Exactly. And people would travel across the country, getting no money, hardly living. Their wives were angry at them for not making money, understandable. But that's just kind of how it was. And then, of course, it grew over time. So hopefully we see the same thing with a UFA here. But that also means that we need more money in the sport. We need more companies to just increase in market share. There just needs to be more money in the sport in general.
I think it's pretty simple. The sport doesn't have enough money. And how does it get money? It needs a larger fan base. And if you get more money, now you can pay your players more, and then it gets better.
Which helps create a bigger fan base. And
it just keeps going. But to get a bigger fan base, the big problem, like you said, is junior leagues. College Ultimate is actually growing a lot. There's a lot of varsity programs, D1 programs. We're in a D3 program where it's just a club, but it's still pretty legit. We've got a good team, a good community out here. So College Ultimate is doing great, but the problem is most colleges recruit people who have never played in high school.
Right.
And it's really only the top college Ultimate teams who can recruit people who have only played in high school.
Really,
and that's the problem. Is no one really plays Ultimate in high school, middle school, elementary school. Because if you think about it, how do you get fans who are MLB baseball fans? It's the kids who played Little League and who watched, and because they played Little League, then they wanted to watch the Pro League as kids. Exactly. And then they grow up, and then they're going to still watch it when they're adults and have their kids watch it.
Exactly.
But with Ultimate, no one plays it as a kid, so then those kids who didn't play it aren't going to watch it when they grow up, unless they're one of the few people who happen to play it in college.
Right.
But
I think I still run into way too
Yeah.
many people who don't know the difference between disc golf and ultimate frisbee.
yeah,
right?
that'll drive us crazy. If you ever just meet us on the street and we tell you we play ultimate, just ask if that's disc golf and we'll get mad at you.
Yeah, we'll hate you
So
forever.
yeah, so that's a good prank to play on us. If any of you viewers ever meet us in the person, you can ask for our autographs too. We're usually pretty lenient about giving out autographs.
That's right. Yeah.
We usually don't even charge for it. We're just
Usually don't.
nice guys like that.
Yeah, so really need a growth in junior development there.
Yeah.
I mean, so Cincinnati, where I grew up, really had a strong junior ultimate scene. I mean, I remember I played in junior leagues growing up. My older brothers did. I don't have memory of not being able to throw a frisbee. And it seems like wherever I drove
that
by.
was arrogant.
Yeah, it was
Just
kind of
just take a moment.
Yeah.
Don't have a memory of not knowing how to throw a frisbee.
Anyways. I mean, just everywhere I drove, I would see these public parks, and it seems that day in and day out, there were just always junior leagues going on, which is really great. But that's what needs to be happening everywhere.
Yeah,
And Michigan has kind of been starved for that, and that's been growing a lot. So we have high school teams in Grand Rapids, like White Lightning, that are feeding into some of the college programs there at Kalamazoo, Grand Valley, and Davenport now, and we just need more of that.
Ultimately,
kind of thing.
even high school, though, it's like that's another notch lower. It's almost interesting. You're building the pyramid backwards. Usually you think,
Yeah. good
all
point.
right, we need a pro league, so let's get a junior league, turn that into a high school league, turn that into a college. Here it's like we actually have a pro league, college leagues, and like high school leagues are even worse. And then below high school, it's like nothing. So we need to rebuild that base,
Exactly.
and that'll ultimately feed into the pro league.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully what the future of Ultimate looks like. I do think it has to grow into the Pro League, which is what the UFA is. It's bona fide. It's got the refs. It's got the consistent schedule. It's got the consistent teams.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully 10, 20 years from now, there's junior Ultimate across the country, a Pro League that draws, 10,000 plus people to every game, and players who get paid, 6 digits just to play Ultimate.
Enough to be able to keep playing the sport as their livelihood. So just really quick as a last word on this, what do you think is going to happen to the top level of club then? So one of the things we talked about earlier is that a lot of the same players play in both club and pro. Big programs like Raleigh Ring of Fire are just drawing straight back from Flyers and Ring of Fire, Pony and York Empire, and there's just a lot of other correlates. Do you think that's going to stay the case? Are people going to just kind of permanently move from club over to pro? Or do you think that pro is actually going to draw new talent, maybe from high school football players who aren't able to, who choose not to go into like D1 college football? Like, is it going to be? Do you think that the rosters are going to change significantly?
Yeah. I think ultimately, if we're thinking about UFA taking on more MLB NFL-esque standing in the sport, the athletes who play are going to have to be devoted to UFA.
Yeah.
We don't see, Aaron Judge playing in the local league during the off season. No, he's an MLB player. That's a full-time commitment. So I think...
And there's still minor leagues still play a role.
Exactly.
An important role.
I don't think that means club gets destroyed. I think that means club shifts.
Yeah.
Maybe UFA doesn't take the full monopoly. Maybe there's still some of the top players who could play UFA but choose to play club, but probably not if the money's in UFA. So I think maybe club almost does become a sort of minor leagues for UFA, a place where scouts would go to look at talent to then recruit for UFA. So maybe it becomes a little bit lower level of play than UFA, but it still exists. And because it's more of the spirit of the game and that sort of vibe anyway, teams kind of come and go as they please. I think that works super well for club. So,
and extra consideration, there's also the place of women in pro ultimate and in club. Right now, so UFA is men's, right? Is a men's league, and it's doubtful right now whether we're going to see a pro women's league. I'd be very open to seeing that in the future. I think that'd be a great thing. But right now, it definitely seems that the top level for mixed and for women is definitely going to stay with club for now.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why club sticking around is great because obviously we don't want club to die out. I love club. I've loved playing club last year, and it's has the women's league, the mixed league, so that's great. And maybe there's a women's UFA, WUFA, but
Hope to see in the future, but
yeah, it could be cool.
right now it's important to keep club around, and that'll be
Yeah.
one of its main focuses, one of its big draws. So, okay, so moving on from there, we kind of talked about college ultimate being important, and kind of like the hierarchy of ultimate, how we build up towards that tier that we really want to see at the top of ultimate these days. But we want to talk a little bit about our team going into sectionals this weekend. Tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. we'll be waking up to eat breakfast before we head out to sectionals. So this is Eastern Great Lakes D3 open sectionals. We're hoping to get our bid to regionals.
Yeah.
We're pretty confident we'll be getting it. So what are you going to be looking at tomorrow, Greg?
Rise and grind. That's going to be the name of the game tomorrow. 6 a.m. we're leaving Hillsdale. First pull at 10 a.m. in Grand Rapids. So this is where, if you are on the Hillsdale College Ultimate Frisbee team or any of the D3 teams in the Eastern Great Lakes Conference, you should listen up, because I'm going to explain our very complicated bracket to you. So here's how it works. There's 8 teams from our conference. 5 of those teams will get a bid to regionals. So 5 out of 8, how do you determine that? Those numbers don't divide well.
They don't.
The answer is it's super complicated. There's like a pool play, a bracket, like a winners, a losers. You go from the winners to the losers if you lose in the winners, and then you go back up and through, and then like next thing you know, you just like won a bunch of games and missed regionals, and you're like, how did that
What
happen?
happened?
Because you didn't understand the schedule. So make sure you understand the schedule. So here's how it's going to work. And I want everyone on my team to listen to this so that you all know how it works, so you know which games matter the most. So we're going to show up Saturday. We've got 4 games Saturday, 10, noon, 2, and 4. So every 2 hours we have a game. And the first 3 of those games are going to be pool play. What that means is the bracket of 8 teams splits up, 4 in pool A, 4 in pool B. Those are arbitrary pools. So it's not like A is better than B or anything. And you play each of the teams in your pool, so that's 3 other teams. So you play 3 games, and all those 3 games do is just reseeds everyone.
Yep.
So then going into the bracket play, we will be seeded based on how we did on pool play. So pool play doesn't matter, yes. Does it matter a whole lot? Well, not as much as bracket play. So
Right.
the difference is, if you win your pool, you're going to be in a good spot playing the worst team from the other pool. So for us, we'd love to get a matchup against one of the lower ranked teams in bracket play, because that's going to help our chances there a lot. Whereas if we lose, then we're running into like Davenport first round. We don't want to see Davenport first round.
Personally, no.
But then in the bracket play, it's a soft bracket because 5 of 8 teams make it. So more than half the teams make it. And hence, it's not single elimination. It's not even double elimination. You can lose up to 2 games in the bracket and still make it to regionals. So basically how it works is you have 4 more game slots. The final slot on Saturday is the first game of bracket play.
Yep.
And then 3 games on Sunday at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1 p.m. Those 4 time slots make up the 4 games of bracket play. And basically, I think it's like a big mess, but the way that I can put it most simply is that if you win 2 of those 4 games, you go to regionals. With the only caveat being, if you lose your first 2, you're out, even if you win your second 2. So any other way you spin it, you can win, lose, lose, win. You can lose, win, lose, win. You can lose, win, win, lose. However you want to say it, if you got 2 dubs in there, you're good, unless you started off with 2 L's.
2 losses.
So that's basically how it looks. So that's why that first game of bracket play is a real nice one to win. Because if you win that, you've got 3 more games where you just need to win 1 of them. So getting an easier opponent out of pool play is huge.
Yeah.
But
Greatly increase our odds of making it to
Yeah,
regionals.
exactly. Because if you lose that first one, now you're in a bit of a tight spot. 'Cause so for sure, those 4 bracket games are big. Sunday's going to be a huge day, but also the last game of Saturday is a huge day. And I don't know if they did this intentionally, but by splitting up bracket play into Saturday and Sunday, they made it really important that teams have strong squads both days. Because at D3 college levels, you get some things. Last year at regionals, Butler seniors had graduation, and so they didn't even show up to day one of regionals. So stuff like that happened. We're in the D3 college, a lower level, so people have like homework or something and they're missing. Well, that's a terrible excuse. I don't want to ever hear that you missed an ultimate tournament for homework. But you get the idea, is that sometimes teams have a hard time sustaining themselves for both days, and this bracket makes it necessary that you're ready to go on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. So as far as Hillsdale sectionals is going to look, so Greg mentioned that we're being split up into 2 pools. Now, the pools are not meant to be split up. You have, a pool, or like pool A and pool B, and one is better than the other. That's not meant to be the case. However, I do think that our pool is looking pretty advantageous for us. We've got, to my knowledge, we have
Rose-Hulman,
Grace
Valparaiso.
College, and Valparaiso. So we have played both Rose-Hulman and Valparaiso in the past. We are pretty confident that we'll be able to beat them. Grace is going to be more competitive, a little bit more difficult to beat, but we think that we definitely have a good shot. So I think our prospects going into pool play are looking pretty good, about as good as we could have hoped. And so hopefully, like you said, we'll have 3 dubs going into Game 4 on Saturday, which means that we'll have an easier first game of bracket, and that we'll be cruising our way to regionals pretty tightly.
Yep, so that's Hillsdale's outlook for sectionals. We're going to play those 3 pool play games hard, but not overexhaust ourselves, and then come out rolling in bracket play and get done what needs to get done. So it's a 7-game weekend, so come out ready to go. We're going to need a lot of legs from everyone. 7 games is a lot, so everyone's going to need to contribute.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on to the last topic real quick here. So future of Hillsdale Ultimate. It's looking good.
Yeah, honestly, it's great. We got sectionals coming up. Hopefully we get our bid to regionals, where then I think we got a shot at natties.
For sure.
But even so, looking beyond this year, we have 1 senior graduating, which will be sad to see him leave. But at the same time, for a roster of 16 people, 1 out of 16 is a whole lot less than 1 out of 4, which is how many you would expect to be graduating.
Yeah.
So
we lost 5 seniors before this year, and I think 3 of those were some of our better players.
And so Davenport is hopefully going to D1 next year, which means bye Davenport. We enjoyed our time with you and are happy you're leaving our region, so we don't have to play you guys. But so with Davenport gone, us only losing 1 player, you and me are going to be leading the team again next year, and a new crop of freshmen, improvements from all our current roster players. I expect the team to be a lot better next year. As good as it is this year, I expect even better things from it next year.
It's going to be looking a lot better for us, I think. And, of course, Kalamazoo and Butler have both kind of mentioned that they're kind of in their rebuilding year, so they're also going to be coming back stronger next year, it seems. But I think so they'll still be really, really strong competition, but I think we're going to be coming out stronger than ever. Yeah. And I think that our progression curve is going to be a little bit steeper than theirs. So
yeah, the rest of the region better watch out for Hillsdale next year.
Better watch out for the Chargers.
Yeah, we're going to be ready to go.
All right, that is all for us. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, especially our team for that little bit about how seeding works. Sectionals coming up.
If you weren't watching it live, I'm making you watch the recording.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you all for watching.